First of all, honorable member, I have to interrupt you here because we're digressing. Number one, would you say that public opinion supported budget padding in all the budgets that we've seen since the inception of this assembly?
I don't know what you mean by budget padding.
What I'm referring to is the injection of various projects that have come out to be very frivolous.
Excuse me, sir. There is nothing that the legislature does that is called padding inside the chambers. The definition of padding...
That's a term that came from the lawmakers, not from the people.
Excuse me. We have to be factual about what we are talking about. It's my right as a legislator to amend the Appropriation Act whatsoever way I want to do. Once it is passed at the plenary, that is legal. That is the intention of the Constitution. That is the historical intention of the Constitution.
And what we're talking about is political motive.
Let me explain, sir. The legislature arose primarily to control tax, to control budget, to control declaration of war, and to control diplomacy. The legislature has absolute control as an institution over the budget. And anything that we do in that regard, in terms of adding or removing anything from the budget, is within the powers that we have.
What we're talking about is political motive. What we're talking about is political motive. Is it about the law? Do you deploy those powers for yourself, or do you deploy them for the people? That is what we're talking about.
What have we done that we deploy to ourselves as a legislature? You see, the point I'm trying to make that you have to understand is that in performing your duty, you have to be given the right to perform your duties, make mistakes where you make them, and correct them and move on until such a time that you are moved from that office, so you do. You cannot abdicate our rights. Let me tell you what happened in the budget processes. The budget process, even the one that is going on now, proposals are brought. When people come for debate, this item we forgot to put it. This item is not there. There is nothing that is done that you sit down in your corner and write into the budget.
Let's go to Lagos now. I hear Nyota has a question for you.
Thank you, Mark. Honorable, my question has to do with the issue of budget. I know you talked about the budget and you said INEC is yet to bring its budget to the National Assembly. But as regards the extension or the rearrangement of the timetable, are you not concerned that you'll be increasing the cost issue? I mean, in a time when we're talking about cost cutting, wouldn't that be increasing the cost? Because now, instead of elections holding in 2 days, you're going to be holding in 3 days, according to your new plan.
Well, naturally, election or democracy is costly. There's nothing you can do about the fact that it is costly. And the fact that the INEC is here to bring the budget means that when it brings the budget, it will factor in the fact that you now have 3 days to do election. Let me even tell you, the INEC has been inundated with so many elections beyond far above the the elections to House of Representatives, the ones that take place every 4 years. INEC has been consistently involved in conducting so many elections as a result of death, as a result of resignation, as a result of court orders and the rest of them. So it's a costly business that has to be undertaken. I do understand, of course, that as it is today, Nigerians will be right to think about the cost of the elections. But then there were still the same Nigerians who are saying that we need to have a better legislature. So if you want to have a better legislature, you have to sacrifice by conducting the legislative election in a form and in a manner that will ensure that you have people who are independent come into the legislature. So my own opinion, like I did say.
You're saying that this rearrangement is to ensure the legislature stays independent, but that is not as important as the amount of money that's going to be spent conducting the new plan?
The money that's going to spend will consist in essentially of personnel and security. The election materials, the ballot papers will still be the same. The ballot boxes will still be the same. they will not change whichever date you are going to do the elections. Now, let me paint a scenario for you. Today we have over 60 political parties, and we are going to have independent parties. Assuming that in a polling unit, each of these 60-something people come with their agents to the polling unit. The president's agent comes. He's 60 agents for the presidential candidate, 60 agents for the Senate, 60 agents for the House of Reps members. Imagine how rowdy that place is going to be. So I think people need to open their minds about this. The idea that because you fix the election first, something special will happen. Actually, we are making ourselves guinea pigs, because it does mean that INEC may be able to correct some things and challenges that they will have from our own election. So it's not that there's no proof like this say that we are going to be the beneficiaries. We're actually guinea pigs. Okay. And if you recall, in 2011, the election was postponed. I think the National Assembly election was postponed because ballot papers did not come and so forth before the elections now took place some 1 week or 1 or 2 weeks after. That did happen. So if what we are trying to do is to reduce the logistic challenges that will take place and allow a situation where, in my own opinion, I was not in the chambers when that decision, when that vote took place. But if I was there, I would have supported it. And the reason I would have supported it is this. I think that it is better to have people answer their father names in the National Assembly election, because you know the attention that has been paid to the National Assembly so far shows that Nigerians believe that if the National Assembly were performing in certain form, the country and our democracy will be better.
Okay, is it the need to answer the father's name, each legislator answering his father's name, that led to that suggestion or that new plan to have independent candidacy? And then you talked about ballot boxes. I thought with the electronic voting, that would be out of the way.
No, the Electoral Act did not say specifically that the proposed amendment that we should use electronic voting, but INEC has the window in the bill to bring forth technologies that will allow the elections to take place. What the National Assembly did this time is to, one, validate and legalize the use of card readers. Validate and the use of card readers. If you recall, a lot of cases that depended on the use of card readers in the last election were thrown out by the Supreme Court because they were not part of the Electoral Act. This time we thought that because votes need to count, the card readers, only registered voters, validated voters should be allowed to vote. So we validated card readers. And then INEC has been allowed to use technologies. It is in that regard that INEC is thinking about transmitting results from the polling unit to a database where, because you know, before you hear about results being hijacked on the way, result sheets being hijacked, what is happening now is that, okay, if you have received 2 votes, those 2 votes should be transmitted and recorded. Nobody should come on the way to the collection center, add a 0 to the 2 votes. And that changes the whole process. There are a lot of very valid and very important amendments that were done.
Yes. Well, I think Chamberlain has a question for you.